Hey, gang. I have a prayer request. So, Dad and I just came up to Charlotte for uh, a incision-free procedure, but it's kind of, like an off-the-wall kind of weird procedure that I had never heard of. Um, Dad suffers from tremors in his hands. It's almost like what you would consider to be the equivalent of Parkinson's. And he suffered for probably almost a decade with them, and they've gotten considerably worse to the point that um, he does not enjoy being in public places. He thinks people stare at him or notice, and when they don't, I mean, if you know my dad, he is like super active, independent living. I mean, if you dream it up, that man's probably done it, or he still has it on his bucket list. Um, so I was one day scrolling at the beginning of this year on social media and came across a Jillian Michaels, the fitness guru lady, and Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker podcast. And I don't know what made me stop on them. I never really listened, paid much attention to them. But while Tony Robbins was speaking, he talked about how he had a client who had a non-invasive tremor procedure that was done with ultrasounds that just changed his life. And I'm like, really? So I kind of put it aside, and I don't know, later that night I thought about it and I was like, I'm gonna look this up. And sure enough, it was a real thing. It's called incision free ultrasound tremor treatment. Now it we've spent almost a year getting Dad approved for this procedure because there were no doctors in the Charleston market that did it in our area. And so we had to go to Charlotte, but we had to do a lot of stuff online. Like Dad had to be visually tested to see, how he reacted and when he wrote and stuff. And this is an actual FDA approved procedure. It's not just some charlatan. But we can only do one side. It's only approved right now for one side of your body. You can pick either side. But it affects people from young kids all the way till, the elderly. And most people who get it that are still maybe not retirees, they go with the more invasive one where they actually insert a electrical probe into the brain, and they find through CT scans and then ultrasounds where it's affecting you, where those nerve endings are overreacting and causing you to shake. And it's a 2-day procedure for that, because the second day they come back and then they run the line all the way down, like to your area in your chest, kind of like a pacemaker. But in Dad's case, he is doing the part where they're doing ultrasound, where they'll take the CT, as far as I know. I'm not a doctor, but and then the ultrasound will be used to heat up or radiate that area in order to deaden those nerves, in order to make them not overreact and cause him to have tremors. And, I understand why they only want to do one side, because, what if it doesn't work, on both sides? And believe it or not, there's a high percentage of success. Believe it or not, it's like 97% success rate on this procedure. And we didn't know anything about it. In fact, his neurologist didn't know anything about it. So he's been a little skeptical about it, but Dad is to the point that he's willing to try anything because it's really affecting his, enjoyment of life, and keeping him from doing social things. When my dad, he is like always, raring to go and having a good time. So we hope to have him back to doing that. But if you could pray for us for tomorrow, within 2.5 hours of this procedure, he could be tremor free. on one side. Now I don't know if this. They kept asking us, because he's been under a neurologist for many years. If this was Parkinson's related. I will find out tomorrow because I know that I have some friends that have Parkinson's, and I'm sure they're going to be interested. But if you know of anybody that is suffering, whether they're young or old, from tremors in the hands, stay tuned, because I really hope that we come back tomorrow and we show you like a completely different dad. And I hope, that it turns out that it's a benefit to others. So I will keep you posted. Many prayers. Oh, and by the way, I don't have my crown today, so I had to settle for glasses. Good night.